There is nothing like some death metal to start your morning. What is up, everyone? It is Chris, founder of Rock Metal Fan Nation here, and I am stoked for episode 8 featuring Cannibal Corpse's brand new album, Chaos Horrific. Cannibal Corpse is a band that has been around forever. This is their 16th album to date, and as much as people take them as kind of a death metal novelty, they prove on this album that they mean business and are nowhere near slowing down. I can't wait to dive into all 10 of these tracks with you, so let's do it. Due to the incredible consistency of this album, it was a pretty hard one to rank, but here we go. Coming in at number 10 is Vengeful Invasion. This is a pretty unique song. It starts with more of a high-pitched guitar riff that is kind of spastic, yet the rest of the band does a great job of keeping the rhythm section really tight. So it feels like kind of overwhelming, but the rhythm section and the vocal deliveries from Corpsegrinder keep the rhythm very on point, and for that reason, it adds a really interesting dynamic to the song. It happens to be the longest song on the album, too. It's 4 minutes and 44 seconds. Pretty rare for a death metal song to almost be 5 minutes long. There is a good amount of repetition in this one. I think it was repetition for effect. For that reason, the main hook really, sticks with you for better or worse. You'll find with Cannibal Corpse songs is the song titles match the overall vibe and instrumental delivery, and in Vengeful Invasion it practically sounds like bees swarming all around you. It's a fun song. It still has enough dynamics to make it unique compared to the rest of their discography. When you listen to Vengeful Invasion, hold out for the outro, because that is actually my favorite part of the song. It is more my style. It's a slow, menacing, chugging riff that brings the whole thing to a great number 9, I have Pestilential Rictus. I'm probably saying that wrong, and what the hell does that mean? Pestilential means relating to or tending to cause infectious disease. It could also informally be annoying. What a pestilential man. Okay, I think it's probably more the disease route. Rictus means a fixed grimace or grin. Ugh. Essentially, this is a diseased grin, and I love this song's lyrics. I hate that I have it ranked number 9 overall. It's a testament to how strong this album is, but this song is basically about a post-apocalyptic society where the only people who have survived are cannibals. They start eating each other, as cannibals do. However, the meat that they start eating is diseased, and therefore they all start getting diseased. So one by one, they start dropping like flies, and it's like the end of civilization. Yeah, it's grotesque, and it's a pretty ugly one. There's a very fast tempo in this song, but what I love is the guitars kind of back off when the vocal melody and hook really needs to be in place, and that's actually in the verse. So it helps tell the story. It's very easy to follow, which you can't really say for, or at least I can't say, for a lot of death metal songs, but a unique creative decision of letting the guitars relent a little bit, get hit with that vocal melody, get that stuck in your head, and then go right back to the fast tempo. Simply great dynamics. That's one example of the dynamics in this one. I would say overall, this feels like a bit more of a progressive song on Chaos Horrific. And one of my favorite parts of the entire album is around the 2-minute mark, where you get this just chugging riff. It's really, really simple chugging riff, and then it leads into a bridge where you have accelerating and decelerating guitar riffs mixed with some string bending, and it's just right up my alley. I would say that there are more thrashy elements to this song, and they are sprinkled out throughout the album. Ranked at number 7 is Fracture Refracture. Such an awesome song title. And this one starts with speed. There are enough tempo changes on this album to really keep you interested, and Fracture Refracture is one that instantly grabs your attention. Now, what I like about it is, as bombastic and loud as the drums might be, it's still very well produced, and for that reason, it doesn't feel like audio overwhelming. You're not, jarred by it. It's easy to follow, still very enjoyable, and what's great about Fracture Refracture is just how tight the guitars and drums are with each other. One of the more unique qualities of Fracture Refracture is the solo. Now, there are a lot of solos peppered throughout Chaos Horrific, which is awesome. Some death metal bands don't include solos. It's awesome that Cannibal Corpse does. In this solo, it kind of starts going off in like very low in the mix, and you're listening like what's going on there? And it's low in the mix, grabs your attention, and then you're hit with this like really high pitched note, and then the solo takes off from there. So a really cool progression, and it makes the solo stand out more. This was probably done on purpose, and if it was, I tip my hat to them. So it's called Fracture Refracture, and you have a guitar solo, then it's interrupted by corpsegrinder, and then another guitar solo. So just these themes tie into the musicality so well, and features like that really create an enjoyable and memorable listening experience. Plead absolution, pray to your God. Your death is ever so near. Seek out salvation, cry out in vain. That is how Drain You Empty starts. It is the album closer, and it is ranked 7th overall on Chaos Horrific. Now, the tempo of this album has been mostly fast. Drain You Empty is slow. It's heavy, a lot of doom metal influence, and they really take their time with this intro. There's no rushing. It's very deliberate. They're not trying to close this album out in a fast manner. It's a welcome change of pace. There are pace changes throughout the album, but Drain You Empty, it has the most obvious and noticeable one. Intro lasts nearly a minute, and just when you think the drop is about to happen, instead the slow, heavy power chords are in place, and then we get some bass drum kicking in. So we have consistent bass drum, but our riff hasn't changed. You're waiting and waiting, and then finally after that minute, you get this jarring, palm-muted vroom, 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 vroom riff that is one of the most unique riffs on the entire album. This very well might be one of corpsegrinder's best vocal performances on the album, and what I like is he's extending his growls in the song, even hits a few higher notes, so it's like drain you of your life, and when he says life, he goes a little higher. Usually he is always in control. He has a certain range that he stays in. He's very controlled, very deliberate. So it's nice to hear him break out of that and hit a high note before coming back down. Throughout the album, Cannibal Corpse throws so many twists and turns that it keeps us on our toes and we never know what to expect, and that continues in Drain You Empty. Another unique quality of Drain You Empty is, you don't realize it, but the tempo is gradually increasing. So you have the really slow intro that I mentioned, things pick up with that palm-muted riff, and even though that riff carries through most of the song, you start to realize that, wait a second, it's speeding up. So really interesting dynamic there. There's less peaks and valleys on Drain You Empty and more of just this gradual build in speed and ferocity. And is yet another reason why this is such a great album closer. Coming in at number 6 on the ranking is track 2, Frenzied Feeding, which I have a really hard time saying. Great alliteration. And it starts with a crazy riff. It is frantic, frenzied, and is one of the faster songs on the album. Now, call me crazy, but the main riff actually reminds me of something that Trivium would write if they were a death metal band. It has that similar tone, or maybe it's just the notes. I don't know. But either way, I absolutely love it because I love Trivium. I continue to talk about surprises in this album, and only 40 seconds into Frenzied Feeding, we get a blistering guitar solo. As much as I love a build-up to a big, epic guitar solo, I also love being surprised by one, and Frenzied Feeding does exactly that. People who complain that death metal might be too repetitive or sound the same or be predictable will have a hard time saying that about a lot of the songs on this album. And after that solo in Frenzied Feeding, you get a really cool trading guitar part where I don't really hear that in a lot of death metal songs. Usually the guitars are tight, they're focused together, but actually trading off of each other was a really cool factor. It's a nice flex, and it adds a little bit of confidence and flair to the song. Another great part of Frenzied Feeding is it has peaks and valleys, so there's tempo changes throughout. Another true highlight is within the chorus, you have an awesome riff, but you also have a great melodic guitar riff. Now, it's not a high-pitched melodic guitar riff that you might be used to, but regardless, it's kind of this ascending riff that is very unique, adds strong melody to an overall great song. Landing at a strong rank of 5th overall is Pitchfork Impalement. Where do they come up with these names? What a great name for a song. And it starts with surprising ferocity and speed in the intro before diving into somewhat familiar territory in the verse. Paul Mazurkiewicz, not sure how to say his name, but Paul, drummer of Cannibal Corpse, is the MVP here. Before some trading guitars happen in the pre-chorus and chorus, the drums really set everything up to make it one of the heaviest choruses on the album. It has this great boom, 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 boom stomp. It keeps everything tight. Everything is so focused. This is not sloppy death metal by any means. This one is peppered with guitar solos, and I love the guitar tone. It makes the solos so memorable. They stand out. It's not a solo for soloing's sake. They really serve the song well, and you know I'm all about that. I mentioned Paul, their drummer, as being the MVP of this one. Not only did he write the lyrics to this, but he has also said in interviews, it is the only song in the entire album that features blast beats. Pretty crazy for a death metal album not to be peppered with a ton of blast beats, but here we are, the only track with one, and I think that's great. I think blast beats can be overused. I love them, but when they're used appropriately and in Pitchfork Impalement, it's perfect. If Pitchfork Impalement isn't released as a single, I think that this one has potential to be a fan favorite deep cut. Track 4 has ended up being ranked 4th overall, and that is Blood Blind, the first single released for Chaos Horrific. And similar to Drain You Empty, it has a slow doom metal guitar riff that takes its time. There's no rushing here. It's very deliberate in its pace. Slow and heavy guitars make way to a very fast but consistent double bass drum, and that leads us into a verse that has some start-stop guitar riffs that are very groove metal oriented. I was surprised about, and I loved to hear one of the most infectious grooves in the entire album. Bloodblind's main theme of having the slow guitars mixed with the fast double bass drums is unique in itself. Now, this isn't a song that has a ton of twists and turns, unlike a lot of the other songs in the album, until the back half of the song. Then there's these weird decisions that are made, and it's jarring. It is stimulating to the ears and very entertaining. It's a great Cannibal Corpse single, but it really doesn't capture the essence of the album Chaos Horrific. And hey, maybe that's a good thing. It is unique on its own, but you can tell this fits into the band's overall discography versus having a more distinct identity that a lot of these songs do. We have entered the top 3 song ranks, and I have Chaos Horrific, the album title track, and my favorite song in the entire album. Now, it is really hard to measure what is the heaviest song on a death metal album, specifically this one where every song is heavy, but I believe that Chaos Horrific is the heaviest offering. It was recently released as a single, rightfully so. It is such a great death metal song. It has a lot of thrash elements to it and is so entertaining. It has fast riffs, great drum fills, some solos to it, an overall badass attitude, and it's an invigorating song. There's so much energy in this one where it's not one of those doomy death metal songs where, you know, you're like down or it's like so much happening where it kind of can like lull you to sleep. This song gives you energy. It makes you want to get up, headbang, jump into the mosh pit. At this point in their career, the fact that they're turning out songs like this makes me still hopeful for the future of this band. Track 1 of Chaos Horrific has landed at the number 2 spot in the ranking overall. Overlords of Violence. Is that not a perfect name for what Cannibal Corpse represents and who they are? They're the overlords of death metal, clearly, and there's not a better way to kick off this album. It starts with a sprawling bass riff that leads into just super fun guitar riffs that are fast. Corpsegrinder is delivering vocals really fast, but really controlled. His control on his vocal delivery is phenomenal. I haven't really heard anything like that, and you could tell this isn't a production trick. This is just training with his voice, and it shines along with the rest of the band. It's a statement song. They come out pulling absolutely no punches whatsoever. In previous songs in the album, I've mentioned slower intros, right? Not rushing. Well, in Overlords of Violence, within 30 seconds, we hear the first chorus, and the chorus is delivered so fast. I love that there are lyrical changes in each chorus, but it is delivered ferociously. It's like Corpsegrinder just spitting these lyrics out. No nonsense. Overlords of Violence is textbook proof that You don't have to sacrifice heaviness for the sake of a catchy hook. If you think of the chorus goes da na 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 na, right? And that sounds like something very catchy that could get stuck in your head, and it's delivered so ferociously yet easily enjoyable. Overlords of Violence, it's a top Cannibal Corpse song, one of my favorites. It puts a smile on my face. Perfect way to open the album. And the number one ranked song in this album is Summoned for Sacrifice. Oh my goodness, this song is so heavy, but it's jarring. There's so much going on. They sacrifice the kind of thrash death metal riffs for more doom metal style. It's an ugly, ugly tune, yet it has so much swagger to it. There is a ton of confidence being exuded by the band on this track. From a musical standpoint to the vocal deliveries to the overall tone, Summon for Sacrifice is out of control. There's a lot that can happen in a death metal song that's just over 4 minutes, and the first minute and 20 seconds or so, you're in great territory, the vibe is awesome, and then you get an awesome, awesome change of pace, an even filthier guitar riff, and the song takes off into new territory. The band touches upon themes that aren't new to death metal, but their approach to the themes, to the song structures is incredible, and Summon for Sacrifice highlights all of that. This one features the best chorus of the album. It is catchy, it is still heavy, it has that stomp, methodical stomp that's happening. Lyrically, it is fantastic, it is very compelling, it keeps you wanting to listen to the very end. The bridge section is awesome. You have some start-stop guitars, double bass coming in and out. Great guitar solos. The band is flexing. Every member of the band is flexing in this song, and the result is a death metal masterpiece. I'm going to be honest with you all. I am not a death metal guy. I respect the genre a ton, but I don't listen to it very often. The closest that I dabble in it is probably Swedish melodic death metal, right? Where you have clean vocals incorporated. What makes a good death metal album? You're not getting the clean vocals, right? So what are you looking for? You're looking for soul-crushing riffs, lyrics that deal with, either brutality, death, or something gruesome like that. Double bass drums, short, concise, fast songs. What I will say, in some death metal bands, they sound a bit repetitive, or you can't really tell the tracks apart. And what makes Chaos Horrific stand out as one of the best death metal albums that I've ever heard is each song has a distinct identity. There is enough creativity going on where it isn't just creative changes for the sake of them. All of them have purpose. It's a very deliberate album. A lot of thought and attention went into these songs, and the result is an incredibly diverse death metal album. The quality is maintained so high that any one of these songs can be a lead single. I really hope that Pitchfork Impalement will be one, because it is a total sleeper pick. From start to finish, what we have here is a modern death metal classic, and for those reasons, I'm rating this album a 9.4. It has now become the highest rated album that I have done in all 8 episodes, and I truly believe that this is going to go down in history in the upper tier of Cannibal Corpse's very large discography. They've got 16 albums. Why are they making albums this good? Because they love the genre. They know they're carrying the torch. And what makes this album even more special is the energy, the life, how invigorating these songs are. They don't want to slow down. And we don't often see bands take this much pride in making high quality music. 16 albums into their career. Cannibal Corpse's Chaos Horrific is a delight. If you are not a death metal fan, even like me, I can't say that I love death metal. Try this album out. Start with track 1, Overlords of Violence, or go straight into Summoned for Sacrifice. It's going to blow you away. It is a new take on classic death metal themes. The dynamics are incredibly entertaining. The ideas are still new musically. I personally think every metal fan will love this album, but even if you don't love the album, at the very bare minimum, I think that you will respect the songwriting and creative ability that Cannibal Corpse still has this late into their career. Thank you all for joining me in my heaviest album that I have ranked the songs on and reviewed to date. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you all for joining me in my heaviest album song rank and review to date. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Rock Metal Fan Nation family. I will see you next time.